Seconded by Councilwoman Keys. Mayor, and this is Mayor Joseph. How do you? Well, let me read the motion on the record. It was Scott Garvin's motion to keep the super majority as is. Motion was made by Councilman Garvin, seconded by Councilwoman Keys. Mayor I'm sorry, I gotta go by this. Vice Mayor Desime.
No, I'm not vice mayor anymore.
Councilman Desime.
No.
Councilman Galvin.
I have questions, Mr. Mayor. I've gotten conflicting legal advice over the last 10 minutes during recess.
Can we do that in the middle of the vote?
As the maker of the motion, I have further clarification that I need. My intent, overriding everything else, is that a supermajority remain in place for any zoning changes we might make tonight or going forward.
Councilman, I'm so sorry, but I just need to, from what I understand with Robert's rule, once the vote begins, discussion stops. Do you guys want to revert back? Because the vote began, so what are we going to do?
The vote begins. We have to continue.
That's what I'm saying.
I withdraw my motion for the approval of the item on a standalone so that we may continue discussion. Yes, guys, we can't start pretending like we stopped discussion just because we don't like. I've got legitimate questions. I'm an elected representative of the people. I get to ask my questions.
Okay, so at this time, we don't have no votes.
No, but my question then will be to the city. No, but I need advice. I need guidance. And according to the rules, once a motion is made, seconded, and you've had public hearings, and you already had one vote, can you abort this flight?
The maker of the motion.
No. I'm with it. No. Once the motion has been made, seconded, it's been debated. We've heard opinions from a lot of concerned citizens, as well as previously elected officials. And we already have one council member who actually voted. Now you tell me, Mr. Attorney, can this vote be aborted?
I would say you would have to proceed with the vote.
Thank you.
So am I allowed to ask further questions on my own motion?
The vote has already commenced.
What exactly is
Can we continue with the vote, and if there is any other question, then we can entertain them?
I vote yes on my own motion. I vote yes.
Vice Mayor Keys.
Yes.
Councilman Biedeme.
No.
Mayor Joseph.
No.
So the language stays as is. It didn't pass.
And what is that language for clarification?
The language remains, the proposed language remains, the densities and intensities set forth in this future land use element cannot be changed without the concurrence of a supermajority striked, majority underlined of the city council. So that's what we have.
So we now, going forward for the remainder of the evening, a simple majority sets policy for this city.
No.
No, it's the proposed language right now is a majority. That's the proposed language. That's how it's expected to be transmitted.
That the issue here, to clarify, is the plan that governs is the plan from 2007. That plan has a policy that says that any change to density and intensity shall require a supermajority of vote. So now we have a proposed change to the governing plan that requires supermajority. It must be transmitted, considered by the state, and then come back and be adopted. So it will still take 4 votes until it is back and adopted, and then it would change to 3.
So in essence, the vote that we just took, did it pass or fail with a 3-2? That's my question, so I can note it for the record.
It failed 3-2,
Because
2 to 3. It failed 2 to 3.
Because it needed a supermajority.
But we need to understand its impact now for the remainder of the evening and going forward. Do we need 4 votes?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
To change any of these zoning items, we'll need 4 votes.
To transmit this plan to the Department of Economic Opportunity will require 4 votes because the proposed plan that you are transmitting, if you choose to do so, has changes to density and intensity. And the governing plan says any changes to density and intensity requires 4 votes. So to transmit right now, it would require 4 votes because you're proposing to change density and intensity.
And once it goes to the state and they kick it back to us,
It then comes back to you and you will adopt it. And if it goes forward with the simple majority and comes back and the state won't care about super or simple, quite candidly, then once you adopt it, the simple majority becomes in effect.
okay, I follow what you're doing.
Okay.
I follow what's happening.
Okay.
So just to be clear for the record, the item failed 3-2 because it required a supermajority to pass.
No,
So
that's not what I did. Oh, okay, okay.
that's what I'm saying. That's why I got to get it clarified for the record. And city attorney, please. So Councilman Galvin's motion to keep the supermajority as is, we had 3 no votes and yes 2 votes, and that item passed because it required.
No,
I mean, it
failed.
failed because it
Yeah.
required a 4-1 majority.
Yeah.
So that's the way I'm going to write it out.
So is it my understanding that it's gonna go before the state with the simple majority in it?
Still needs the 4 votes. So it still needs the 4 votes.
It's going to be
The old
transmitted to the
package.
state with the
The
supermajority.
whole package gonna need 4 to be approved.
So what did this vote mean?
What it means is this. When we'll vote on our zoning, we just adopted a simple majority for next year and down the line.
That is correct.
Tonight, the supermajority
still
remains
in
in
place.
place because the 2007 agreement remains the governing document. Once we send it to the state and it's approved and we approve it again, then the simple majority stays in place going forward.
Yes,
Pass it
correct.
today with 4 votes.
No, don't say yes correct so quickly. You have to read into the item.
But I understand the item, Mr. Mayor.
I know you do, but I know the vote that was just taken.
Or we
The
could,
way- the
we
way
could
that it is
continue this
read,
item. Maybe we
is-
should continue this item, Mr. Mayor, because we also have second reading, and anything that's done tonight is officially not done until second reading happens in 2 weeks.
That is
anyway.
correct. Well, it's going to be more than 2 weeks. It's going to be closer to December because there's a certain review period at the state. So right now, it's only a recommendation. It goes up because the governing plan is 4 votes, okay? You're recommending when you transmit it to change it to 3. It's not adopted. This is just a transmittal hearing, a first reading of an ordinance. It goes up, and the simple majority doesn't become effective, as I said, until it's adopted at second reading. It will require 4 votes in order to adopt it.
It
So
would still require 4 votes because that's
Right.
the current LDRs
it'll need
require
4
4
votes
votes.
tonight and 4 votes in 2 weeks.
Yes, sir, in the
Right.
adoption stage.
Right,
I'm positive.
but then in 2020, when they're redoing this, if they decide they want to redo this mid-plan, it'll just need a simple 3 or 4
Yeah, 3.
votes. Because that was what was recommended by staff. I mean, nobody can tell me where that recommendation to get rid of the supermajority came from. That's what's, so,
It came out of the joint workshop.
but somebody had to
Planning
have
commission.
uttered those words. It wasn't just the walls.
No, and I would have to look at the minutes of the meeting. I can't
So
tell you.
maybe we
offhand.
should continue the entirety of all of this until everybody can go back and review notes and review minutes and have specific information and get it all right so that we don't make a mess of things any further. I know Mr. Tate is trying to say something, Mr. Mayor, so I
5 seconds?
I can answer I'm sorry to
Yeah,
interrupt.
he has a.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I'm sorry. I just want to say one thing.
I can
'cause
tell you
I
you
think
said
I
it.
can clear this up in 2 seconds. And it's a hard puzzle, but I think I followed it. My name is James Tate. I live at 12855 Biscayne Bay Drive, and I also work at 1175 Northeast 125th Street at the Tate Executive Building. The problem I see tonight is a lot of time and effort that's gone into this plan. It's going to require a supermajority to vote it to go to the state. What's going to go to the state is a recommendation to change it to a majority.
Correct.
They're not going to approve that, so everyone's effort is wasted. If staff would simply change that one line, we can vote on this comp plan tonight, and I think you may have a different result. That's all I want everyone to understand, because what's going to go to the state is a change to go from a supermajority to a simple majority, which 2 people have already told you they're not going to vote on it. So
There-
everybody's wasting a lot of time.
There are a lot of changes besides that that are, their densities and
But what I'm
intensities.
saying
even
is the
gotten to that
fundamental
yet.
change that's going on tonight, and the council isn't clear on this, and they should be clear on this.
Right. It was Mr. Each, a planning Ernst, excuse me, the planning commissioner that had suggested that at the joint workshop. I believe, to comment on this gentleman's comment, and it's a point of order, so I'm gonna defer to the attorney, but I'm gonna suggest if we are going to make this change, going back to supermajority, it would need to go back to the planning commission for a recommendation. I'm deferring to the city attorney. It's a point of order.
I think that the planning commission already had approved a move to a majority as
They did.
opposed to so
did.
why I don't see why it would have to go back for that point.
But you,
Right, their planning commission is totally advisory now. Let's not put so much weight in the planning commission's words that they're overruling us. They don't. So,
And there was a recommendation by the planning commission to bring it down to a majority.
Where is it?
right, that was their recommendation. Somehow that recommendation made it into the meat of what we're discussing tonight, and that I didn't like. I like the supermajority being able to
I understand.
have a heavier hand in deciding zoning issues citywide. So, do we need to continue this for 2 more weeks, Mr. Attorney and Mr. Manager, to let everybody get all their legalese together? Or do you feel comfortable with where we are tonight, that we should go ahead and now start talking about neighborhood by neighborhood zoning density? And
I think we're ready to proceed accordingly. We're under a timeline right now to transmit this document to the state of Florida.
Yeah.
it was the planning committee who decided to throw out the plan that our planners originally did with no regard for the timeline. So it was our planning commission who did that. They put us in that position. We had a plan that was proper, could have been amended for all these heights and density after. So they've put us in that position. So I'm not gonna be voting on something that is bad, irresponsible this evening, just because we have a timeline. It's too bad.
We can continue, or if you decide to,
Listen, let me ask you something. We have an agenda. I reserved my night to be here to go over this entire agenda. If anybody chooses to abort this meeting and not continue with the entirety of the agenda, I want to know what would be that reason. What would the reason be?
I got advice from staff all week that it would take 4/5 to override 4/5. So therein lied my original reason for wanting to pull it out, so that we could make it clear to the community going forward tonight we were going to keep 4/5 in place. So my intent was to keep the supermajority as is. Should we have had more workshops? Maybe we should have. I'm ready to go forward tonight. Remember, everything that happens tonight is null and void in 2 weeks anyway, because we'll have a second reading, and if we don't get the exact same vote in 2 weeks, then it's all.
actually, second reading will probably take place in December.
Correct.
It's not going to be in 2 weeks, yeah. Because it's going to go to the state of Florida. It's going to take time
Okay,
for.
so if we're still going to have a second reading, so let's move forward.
If there's not 4 votes
Let's
in
move
favor of
forward.
the plan tonight, it dies,
That
period.
is correct.
Yeah.
And then we don't go forward.
You are required to transmit it.
Excuse me,
that
doesn't,
When do
doesn't
we
the
have?
council-
When do we?
Listen, no, we have to continue with I cannot continue a meeting like this. This is not orderly. So we have an agenda. Please, let's continue with the agenda. I cannot have public hearing back and forth. Let's please go forward with the actual meeting.
Okay, Mayor, would you like me to move forward with the meeting, I would have to read tab K, because there were 2 items that was voted on that wasn't on the agenda, and now we're done with those 2 items. Would you like me to proceed by reading tab K, which is apparently the last tab of the night?
Yes, please.
Okay, so Do you want me to clarify the two motions that were not on the agenda, or just read tab K?
Just read tab K.
Okay, so tab K, proposed ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, adopting the evaluation and appraisal-based amendments to the city of North Miami Comprehensive Plan in accordance with requirements of Rule 73C-49, Florida Administrative Code, and Section 163.3191, Florida Statutes 2014, amending the future land use, transportation, housing, infrastructure, coastal management, conservation, parks and recreation, intergovernmental coordination, economic public schools facilities, and capital improvement elements of the North Miami Comprehensive Plan, adding a climate change element to the North Miami Comprehensive Plan, providing for annual update to the city improvement element specific to capital improvements schedule, providing for data and analysis supporting adoption of goals, objectives, and policies of the elements, providing for transmittal and subsequent adoption of amendments, additions, and deletions to the goals, objectives, and policies of the elements, providing for transmittal of such proposed amendments to the State Land Planning Agency for review in accordance with Section 163.3184, subparagraph 3, Florida Statutes 2014, providing for repeal, conflicts, severability, codification, and an effective date. That is tab K.
Is this comment or public hearing, Mr. Mayor?
Public hearing. It's going to be public hearing first, but I don't see the dilemma is that the people in the audience, they do not have a copy of what we have, of the detailed.
It's online.
I know it's online, but you know, it's very voluminous. You know, it's a 12-section paper,
200 pages.
and I don't know how they're going to comment on something that they don't have copies of. But nevertheless, public hearing is open on the comprehensive plan.
Mayor, Council, my name is James Tate again. I live at 12855 Biscayne Bay Drive, and I work on 125th Street at 1175 Northeast 125th Street. Thank you. I just want to ask a question and hopefully give some clarity again. Just because this is a proposal from the Planning and Zoning Board, right, and staff, doesn't the council have the right to make an amendment before they send it to the staff? They're the governing body. So all they have to do is make an amendment on that one line, and therefore they can defray the no vote, and we can still proceed with this process, right? So tell the council, please, that they have the right to make that one change, and we can continue the process.
It's already been voted on, sir.
I know, but what's
We
going to
already
happen?
took a
No, but
vote,
what's
huh?
going to, guys,
Yeah.
what's going to happen? Let me just spell this out. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to have this go before you. It's going to fail because you're not going to have a supermajority because they don't want that going to the state. If you, as a commission, change that one paragraph, I think you'll all be in accord and you'll have a better vote and you'll have a better outcome and you won't have wasted the council's time and the staff's time and the organizations and consultants' time that went through this effort to get this plan done.
Yep.
So my one comment is to council, to the city attorney, does the council have the right to amend this? And I think the answer is yes, and if they do, then let them amend it so we can have a vote and continue with the process.
We can amend something on first reading, we just can't amend it without re-advertising it on second reading. And
Correct.
Mr. Tate makes a very good point. If a minutia or any type of change is made now, as long as it's advertised consistently in the second reading, we're okay. If we just leave it as is, we've allowed one person's offhanded comment at a public workshop to rule the day as if it was some sort of thing written in stone, and it's not. So, you know, we regularly make changes on first reading
Absolutely.
so that we can then have it. Sorry. But you follow what I'm saying? We regularly make changes at regular zoning things on first reading and then come back on second as long as it's consistent.
That's correct. Here's where I see that we are now, just so that the council understands what the ramifications might be. There is a split train of thought, if you will, on whether or not it should be a supermajority or simple majority. That has been determined. You've kind of discussed it and voted on it. If this plan does not get transmitted, you don't have an effective comprehensive plan. I have been informed by staff that you have some annexations pending, I think 4 of them. you won't be able to make any land use plan amendments until you have an effective comprehensive plan.
But we could make an effective plan in 2 weeks on September the 8th if we give it a little time. I mean, if it's going to fail tonight, then we're stuck. So
Well, here's what I'm suggesting as the consultant, and I'll stick my neck out here. I understand the concerns and the needs for redevelopment. I appreciate them immensely, truly I do. However, I would hate to see this plan fail because of the supermajority issue when we have so many other things in terms of height and density and intensity and having an effective plan that you may wish to consider or reconsider addressing that item separately. You can always amend the language in the plan at any time. You're not constrained to once every 7 years.
I totally agree with you. That's why I've been blown away since I saw this on Thursday night, how one individual's offhanded comment ended up as part of this plan.
It was what we understood as staff and consultant to be the direction of the joint workshop. That's why we had the joint workshop,
but-
because we had,
That you recognize that one individual's comment at a joint workshop is now dominating everything we're trying to say and do tonight. It's as if those spoken words in the middle of August are the in stone carving that we have to follow now.
I understand. I recall there was some public discussion of it.
Okay,
Here we are.
I don't think what you're doing is right. I don't think what you're doing is right at all. Because I've never been to any commission meeting where a consultant is actually trying to go over a decision that was that was taken by a vote. The decision was taken by a vote. Any amendment that could have been done to this, a document should have been done before any vote. Once you make a vote, you listen to the people, you listen to the comments. There are people here who leave their kids home and they leave many other activities that they could have been doing. They come here because they do care. Every single person who is here, cared about the city just like anybody else. So we cannot be crying when things, we cannot be crying wolf or anything when things do not go our way. A vote is a vote. Then that's what we just did.
Yes, Mayor, I understand.
Let's continue. Let's continue with this meeting, please. If we're gonna stay here till 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm willing to do it, but I'm willing to do it sensibly, logically, but not over senseless discussion that is not taking us anywhere. We took a vote, 3-2. That's it. Let's live with it. If we're gonna come back on the second reading and vote against it, so be it. We do that all the time.
Understood. My point, just to clarify, Mr. Mayor, is that from what I'm hearing from the discussion on the dais, there is not the 4/5 vote required to even transmit it at this juncture.
So we'll
Well,
have
we-
another,
well,
we'll
we
have
don't know
another
that.
6, Mr. Mayor, we'll have another 6 hours of open forum and open debate, and this will fail at 3 a.m., 3 to 2.
Yep.
And we're gonna be right where we are
That was-
right now.
That was my
Yes,
point.
that-
We're gonna
was
be
her
right
point.
where we are with the ability to continue this 2 weeks, let
But
everybody
you,
talk
but
to each
you,
other.
you said it
It's a hostage.
specifically
I like that
that
word.
the vote on the super versus regular majority did not have anything. That cannot preclude us from going forward with whatever's left. You are the one, Mr. Councilman, who chose to separate that item from everything else.
Because I
If
wanted,
it's separated, you cannot make decision contingent upon something that you already removed.
when I made the motion and removed it, it was clearly indicated that I wanted the supermajority to remain in place. It wasn't until we'd had another 90 minutes discussion on that now everybody sort of got confused. And again, my motion to remove it was based on staff telling me for the last 4 or 5 days that it would take a supermajority to overturn a supermajority. So if that's confusing information and that's not where we are, I'm telling you right now, we'll talk about this for the next 7 or 8 hours, and it's going to fail at 3 to 2 at 3 in the morning, and we're right where we are right now. So why don't we give staff the opportunity to come up with something that works for all of us, as opposed to spending a lot of time.
Well, can I say something, Mr. Mayor? I understand this is public meeting, but we do have a situation where we can't move forward because we do need 4/5. So the only way that we have to move forward, some compromise has to happen. Now, it's my understanding, I'm not too much in favor of the supermajority, and I have my reasons. I have been going around with, as you know, Mr. Manager, with some folks trying to get 7th Avenue developed. And my question to them, and when I met with each one of them that I met with, their concern is they have a problem with the city of North Miami because we are not like any other cities because of our regulations. So I went even further and I asked them, explain to me. And they said because of the process and procedures. Now I understand, and Judy Brown came from my district and spoke, I do need to see some transaction, how Biscayne is looking. I would like to see my district to look like that. I have absolutely no problem. So in order for us to move forward, it's clearly we have to either restate your motion, Mr. Galvin, and have that line taken out, which I'm not too much in favor of. If not, we're just wasting time. So we either we do that or we just go ahead and adjourn the meeting, whatever that we have, because it's going to be a waste.
Mr. Mayor, can I say something?
Go ahead.
And I don't think it's a waste of time because we are here to vote. We have the whole package, we have a plan. The first item fell, now we're gonna keep voting, and at the end of the day, if the whole plan fell, that means everybody gonna take their responsibility.
That's it.
That's
I
what
know.
it is, because we are here to vote. What about when we finish with the whole plan, when we change density or height or anything, and then Councilman Scott Galvin decide to change his vote? We got to vote on the whole package. What about now if we solve the supermajority things, and after that we don't agree on anything in the plan? It's still gonna fail.
So it won't. It won't, because the commission has the ability, and you could address the supermajority another time.
Exactly.
But
We got to
my point-
continue.
But my point. Can I please say one thing? Can I please just say one thing? All I'm trying to say is, you guys have the ability to make an amendment so that this can go forward. And I am a developer. I develop all over the country. I'm pro-development, okay? All I'm trying to tell you is there's responsible development. This plan has been well thought out, but this plan's never going to go forward if you don't resolve this issue. So it's called a compromise. You can it's not going to go forward. So the bottom line is, I'm sorry, I should be addressing you guys. I'm sorry. My bottom line is, if we can have the public hearing and then listen to the plan, I'm all for moving forward with this plan based upon staff's recommendation, subject to that change, because I know unless that one line item is changed with a supermajority, it's all going to fail. So I would like to see the council consider making that one change and then listening to the items on this comp plan change.
What change are you talking about?
What's that?
Change.
The council has the right to amend the one language dealing with the supermajority. And if you do that, I think you may have a favorable vote so we can continue the process with the state. Otherwise, from what I'm hearing, it's just going to die, which will be a waste of everyone's time.
He's not gonna die.
You need a supermajority for it to pass.
Of what? Of the whole plan?
Yes.
I understand that. What about when? Okay. What about the other items?
Alex, you gotta let
Some people are worried about supermajority. Some other people are worried about density.
No, I'm
They
worried
wanna
about
know
density.
what we think about that.
I'm trying to
Some
tell you,
people are worried about
I'm
height.
for the density.
Guys, I gotta make it
Right.
the same for everybody. Your time is up.
I'm
You
sorry,
gotta go.
thank
I'm sorry. We need the next person.
Mr. Mayor, may I say something?
No, I believe this. You wanna defer to me? Okay,
Oh, I'm sorry.
that's fine.
Justin Susi, 13080 Coronado Drive, North Miami. Council and Mayor, I honestly believe you guys have the best interest of the city. I think you have been doing a good job, like other people mentioned. I think you got confused on something. I'm going to give you a little analogy. Let's say you have something on issue, you want to build a school, $100 million. And in that same proposal, someone throws in a $20 million incentive for researching migrating birds. And two of you say, I'm not going to pass it if you don't take out that migrating bird $20 million, because that's a pork project for some interest group. And you say, you know what? No, leave it in there. Even though they're telling you they are going to say no to that project if you leave it in there. That's what happened. I believe Councilman Galvin and Councilman Keys told you to remove the supermajority to majority, or they would vote it down. You killed this proposal by not eliminating that one point. There are a lot of good things in this proposal that need to be discussed, that need to be studied. Guess what? It won't happen because you would not remove the supermajority point. I think you failed, not because you don't want it to work, but you got confused. I hope you understand what I'm saying. It is going to fail. They've already told you they're not going to vote for it. So it is dead in the water. Everybody can voice their opinions. If you would just remove that clause from the beginning, we could actually have a debate and come to a compromise and find something that works and grows the city. But you didn't, and it's a moot point until you come up with a new plan. Thank you.
Esther Blinn, 1990 Northeast 118th Road. I think history will show you something. The author of the supermajority in 2009 was someone very close to me who sat on the dais. And how that developed in his mind was over the issue of the Home Depot and whether we would have a huge sprawling mess like on 163rd Street or what we have today. And that is why I remind Mayor Burns why it was a 5-0 vote. It has to do with the best interests of the entire city. And uncharacteristically, my husband, who's sitting at home, probably listening to me now, called me to implore you to keep the supermajority and move forward. It was exactly the best interests of the entire city with the most adverse effects in one district, which happened to be his district, just like Councilman Decime. It will work to your advantage because this entire council is interested in all of your best interests. And so he persuaded the council, despite immense pressure from lobbyists for Home Depot, to maintain it as the California model, which eloquently Mayor Burns advocated for. And that is why, if you go back in history, and there, Councilman Galvin, actually, his instincts were telling him that it was necessary to have the supermajority. So I beg you to change it so you can move forward.
Thank you. Next.
Louise Poe, 12913 Exora Circle, North Miami. Can I ask a question first before we get going? If we go ahead with this, because personally I'm really tired of talking about the supermajority, if we go ahead to some of the proposed items, can those be amended one by the council before this goes forward to the government?
It won't go forward to the government because it takes a 4/5 vote to send it, and what I'm hearing.
No. I know, if say the first proposal that's on there, which is about the garages underneath, I think it is. If they vote on that and they decide to change that, like take it out or whatever, and then they go forward to the next item and the next item and the next item and the next item, and then they settle it, they make amendments or whatever, then can that proposal go forward?
No. It takes 4 out of 5 of the council
Well,
members.
if 4 out of 5 vote for the amended proposal.
But they're not going to until the supermajority issue
How
is
do you know
resolved.
that until you go through
They
the...
just took a vote on it.
But if they change something in it that they don't like, they might vote for it.
Only the
I can't
supermajority,
speak for
Ms.
the
Poe.
city council.
May I speak, Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to make it perfectly
No, but she
clear
wants to make a-
that I will not vote for this plan if the supermajority does not stay in. So we can stay here all evening.
No matter what changes.
No matter what changes. And I believe we are going to have to vote on item by item because there are a lot of items. But we have a very important plan. Our city, we have our council. We have put so much time into this plan and workshops, and there are a lot of important changes. And we do need growth, and we do need development.
I agree.
And
Can I finish?
no, well, I'm sorry.
It's my time.
Okay, go ahead.
It's my time. Okay, so at the Planning Commission, which I stayed till 11 o'clock and listened to everything, you even told them, I don't advise you to change these last few things that they stuck in at the last minute. So I
That's
don't
correct.
understand.
It's not
She
included.
advised against it, against changing those things. So why can't you go back and take those things that were changed that were not good at the last minute? I don't understand why we can't change it at the last minute when the planning commission stuck things in at the very last minute that you didn't advise.
Mayor, would you like me to respond?
Yeah, go ahead.
There is nothing that came out of the last planning commission meeting that is included in this proposed comprehensive plan. The only recommendations that are included in this plan that the city council is considering are those recommendations that resulted from the joint workshop between the planning commission and the city council.
Mr. Each added the garages, that
It's
they
not
should
in
not
there.
be included. Okay, so it's not on the agenda that was on the internet,
No, and
that I downloaded this afternoon.
it's on the staff report, but it's
Right,
not.
I did, I have it
No,
with me.
I understand, so I have it right
Okay.
here too.
We're
But it's-
going back and forth again. We can't do that.
Okay.
It's in the staff
All
report,
right,
but it's
all
not in
right,
the proposed
okay.
plan.
Whatever.
I gave
I
you
had
the
a
extra
question.
time you lost. I
I
gave
had
you
it,
the
I
extra
did
time.
have that question. It's kind of been answered. The only other thing I had to say is that it took me 10 months to get a building permit to change my front courtyard. It took one of your councilmen over 8 weeks to get a permit to change his front door. Do you wonder why the residents do stuff without permits? And are you going to allow the people that come in to build big things to go ahead of the residents to get their permits? So it'll take me 3 years to get a permit?
Next.
Members of the council, mayor, members, Kevin Burns, 2065 Alameda Drive. I don't know how this conversation and how individuals like me are even up here talking right now, because I didn't hear public forum even opened up. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for allowing this to happen. What if it was reversed and Councilman Alex DeSome said, I'm not voting for it unless this item goes out, and I'm letting you all know tonight. And 3 council people on this side said, I'm going to take my toys and go home if I don't get my way. As opposed to 2 other council people already letting you know how they're going to vote. You're here tonight. Let's hear the rules. And guess what? There's some people who are going to want density. There's some people who don't. So you can have this same scenario going over every element where you're not going to have a supermajority vote on density. Somebody might say 25, somebody might say 50, somebody might say 150.
right.
Somebody's saying 300 feet, somebody might say 100 feet height. You're going to have a lot of this going back and forth. And if 4 of you don't agree, we're going to pick up our tools or our toys and go home. That's not the way we do things here. Try to work out, hear everything tonight. If it fails at the end of the night, it fails at the end of the night. You can always bring it back in 2 weeks for reconsideration. But I don't want the consultant telling you all that the planning commission was wrong for making suggestions, even though they only got 1 bite at that apple and they waited a year to have the conversations. There's a lot of things. This is another prime example why a supermajority, why we're being held hostage. Because people don't see eye to eye. The consultant should take your recommendations, take the recommendations that came from the planning commission, who sit there day in and day out and listen to people who are coming to want to build in front of this city. They understand the problems that they're running into. One more minute, Mr. Mayor. And they know they made suggestions. Is the 300 feet correct? Maybe not, but you're going to have a discussion on that tonight. Is 25 units per acre the right thing? You're going to have a discussion of that tonight. But you have to have the discussion. Let these people voice their opinion. And if it fails, it fails. Maybe cooler minds in a couple weeks, you'll come back and revise it, listen to what happened. But to just say we're not going to do anything tonight because we already have preconceived notions that somebody's not going to like something is not the correct way to handle city government. And let's go,
Okay,
and
yeah.
you make your recommendations as each individual council members, not just by 1, not just by 2, but all 5 of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Peggy Boulay, 300 Northwest 125th Street. I am a member of the Planning Commission. I have sat here just about every meeting since I've become a member of the Planning Commission. No, not just about every meeting, since I've become a member of the Planning Commission. Till 11:30, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning. You know, you've been there. Ms. Keys, I have not seen you there. So to take a shot at us about the decision,
I have
ma'am,
watched every
ma'am,
meeting.
No,
ma'am,
she's talking. Let her
at
talk,
the
please.
decisions that we've made, we've taken in consideration everything that every single citizen has ever said to us about any concerns that they've had with anything going on in their community. We've taken in consideration everything that our advisors have advised us on, our attorneys. We've taken in consideration things that our own members, part of our body in the Planning Commission, have said to us about this whole entire project. So to discount everything that we have done is quite offensive. So I'm going to speak on their behalf and say that, yes, I am very offended at the comment that you made and some of the comments that a couple other people made about the Planning Commission. We work very hard for this city. I have an 8-year-old son. I am a single mother. Do you think I want to be here at 11:30 at night listening to somebody's garage door issue or someone jumping over their fence and they can see their hedges while they have barbecues? Do you think I want to hear that? But no, I'm going to hear that because that's a pressing matter of members in our city, just as well as everything else that's going on here. So please, do not make disparaging comments like that about a governing body, or excuse me, about a body that's put together to assist you and this community. Thank you.
Next.
Good evening, council, mayor. My name is Robert Hughes at 1150 Northeast 123rd Street. And I have to agree with this young lady over here. There was a lot of effort put in to this particular planning. Whether we all have the same vision, no two minds will think alike. And, but I concur that we should go through this, this plan as it's presented by Melgrim. However, it's an incomplete plan without the staff report, and my concern is that if the people who worked on this plan and the staff, the Planning Commission made recommendations, that it's not on the plan that's presented to you. So when we go over point by point, if you guys decide to do it, which I am hopeful that you do because we're all here, and we've all invested our time because we love North Miami, that if there is a concern about a change that's on the proposal that's presented to you, that our advisor here, Mrs. Melgrim, go over that concern as based on this so that we can come to some sort of reasonable compromise, because after all, that's what government is about, compromise and for the greater good. Thank you.
Howard Tonkin, 12600 Griffin Boulevard. I thought I came here tonight to talk about strengthening the language in the comprehensive plan with regard to climate change. And I keep hearing the phrases dead in the water, like just that. I keep hearing that over and over again. And we don't have time. We don't have the luxury of time. We need a sense of urgency. And I don't get that in this city, and I'm frightened for our city. Miami Beach has spent $500 million, and we're talking about, well, should we have a supermajority or not a supermajority? And it's like the storm surge is coming at our city. I'm looking on my phone. Erica is right now we are smack bang in the forecast path of that storm. Not to be a fearmonger, but 120 hours out, it's a category 4. I really hope you guys figure this out tonight. Thank you.
Carol Prager, 2509 Northeast 135th Street. I was one of those residents that went to every single meeting with the Planning Commission on the comp plan. In the early stages, there weren't many people there, but as it went on, more people showed up, more people engaged. I'd like to just explain something. We're going after one individual. His name was used tonight, and I think that was just wrong to seek out who did this. That was wrong. I was at the Planning Commission when a newly appointed individual who carries the water for Carol Keys made a motion for a supermajority And it died for the lack of a second, after a full 3 minutes of waiting for the second. Do not blame one individual for this supermajority language in this. The Planning Commission allowed the 3-2 in there. And when things weren't going Ms. Key's ways, she just shuffled the deck. Everybody in the city knows, Carol, you weren't for this. Everyone knew you were going to vote no. I understand what Mr. Galvin's doing, all right? I trust Mr. Galvin. I don't trust you.
There's been several people who have spoken tonight, and in a way that I feel is speaking down to certain members on the council, and I take huge offense to it. Huge offense. Everyone that is sitting up there, whether you agree with them or you don't agree with them, they're all intelligent, smart people, and they have their own point of view. Just want to put that to the side. The only thing I will leave you with is, if there's a Super Bowl, and one team comes to the field and says, I'm not going to play the Super Bowl unless I get to win, do you still have a Super Bowl? Follow the process. Let it happen.
My name is Bob Pichon, 13005 Coronado Terrace, North Miami. I am the newly appointed person on the Planning Commission that's carrying people's water, just to be clear. We've had several people up here tonight that seem to have taken the moral high ground and speak for themselves quite eloquently. The Planning Commission meetings that are representing the voice of the city of North Miami have got a handful of people that show up to talk about what they think. So the consultant, God bless her, her job's to listen to public opinion. There's very few citizens here, because this is not sexy stuff. So the people that raise their hand to speak, most of them have a dog in the fight. So everybody wants to talk about what's in their best interest, not what's in the best interest of the city of North Miami, and that's why you get a plan that looks like it looks. So the issue in hand is the supermajority, which existed for just these kinds of protections, is getting run over. So as long as there's no supermajority, folks, I'm going to go get some breakfast, because we're going to be here all night. Thank you.
Public hearing is now closed. Members from the dais. Now, are we looking at all 12 sections?
I was on my way. You didn't see me coming up.
60 seconds.
60 seconds.
Yes.
I'm not too sure where we are. I thought we'd be talking about the various issues, but evidently not. But I don't know at what point we discuss the various issues, but we still have a lot of people here that are trying to support a full platform or full agenda. Does that take place? When does that take place? Because we're not talking about any specific items. If we are talking about specific items, I'd like to enter this proposal. The items on the front and back of the page, which you have, includes a bonus heights and density incentive, and I'd like that for full inclusion in the coming whatever you forward. So again, I wish I knew. It's a little confusing. There's a lot of debate on procedure, but not a lot on the actual content. I think all of us were here to come and be enlightened with content. So thank you very much. I appreciate very much the council members who are standing firm and doing the right thing in terms of really holding to the right values and not being overwhelmed by possibly one or two individuals. And I appreciate that, and a lot of other people do.
Mr. Rowland, Mr. Mayor, can I
Go
ask
ahead,
a
go ahead.
question? Mr. Attorney, what happened if, because this is the direction I see we're going, if we don't submit a plan to the state?
Pretty much the status quo.
Okay.
The 2007 plan remains.
It remains. It
2007
remains in place.
It remains in place,
not-
and no land use plan amendments can take place until you have an updated plan. And that would include the annexed areas that apparently are coming into the city of North Miami in the near term.
There's also a moratorium in place.
Yeah, in effect, it's like a moratorium on land use amendments.
Well, there are 12 different sections. And as I read through the whole document, I realized some sections are much easier to go through than others. What I'm proposing is to take it section by section. And I see that like section number 12, 11, 10 seem to be very easy to go through. And whereas number 1, 2, 3, and so forth seems to be the most controversial ones.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to respond because I've had a few people cast some disparaging remarks. I would like to respond.
Okay,
we
before
do
you
this.
respond, can I finish my statement?
Okay. I wanna
Yeah,
do that.
so as we go through it, I would propose that we go section by sections and going with the sections in the bottom first because they seem to be the easiest one to go through as we move toward the most controversial ones. Go ahead.
To Ms. Boulay, who stated that you haven't seen me, I have not always been in town, but believe me, I have watched all of your meetings. I watched every meeting. I was at the workshop, but I was there watching. I am not really allowed to speak at your meeting, so there's no reason for me to be physically present. But no matter where I was, I'm sitting in front of my computer and I'm watching you, so I know what's going on. Ms. Prager, you only care about what's going on in your neighborhood. You don't like the people in Keystone. You don't like us. So, yes, you don't have to trust me. But you don't know how I'm going to vote, and you don't know what I've studied, and you don't know what I'm getting ready to vote on. But I do feel the supermajority is important, and I will stick to, I'm saying that. It's not that I'm a kid and I don't want to play by the rules. I'm just giving my council, since we're out here in the sunshine, the information to let them know how I feel, and I don't want to waste anybody's time. We have a lot to go over. I think if we can always amend a supermajority after this plan, but I want my council to know that's how I feel. Go ahead, Mayor.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, if we do agree with what I just proposed, we can go through section 12, which is a climate change element.
Mr. Mayor, I just have one procedural question, if I might. I agree, let's take everything one item at a time, all 12 items. If 8 get voted up and 4 get voted down, do you not still need an overriding vote to pass this on to the state?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm going to let you know where I agree with this plan. I'm ready to do that. I'm ready to be here till now 4 a.m. I'm going to give you where I would vote on this. I'm going to make it really clear so that everybody knows where I believe where intent should be with development. And then I'm going to vote it down at 4 a.m. because I feel that strongly about each neighborhood retaining a supermajority to protect themselves. So you want to know where I stand on development? You want to know where I stand on climate change? You want to know? I'm ready. Let's have those discussions. That's all. Bless you.
Mr. Mayor, would you like me to do a very brief summary of this element?
Which 12, yes.
Yeah, so this element is a new element that we're adding. It's an optional element. It's on climate change.
Yeah, that's the very last one.
The plan is easier to
No,
go,
go
as the
to
mayor
K,
said,
K,
from
K.
the end of the beginning.
K and then 12.
This is a climate change element. The whole element is new. It's optional.
No, go to K. Go to tab K.
You all need to give us a page that you're on and
I'm sorry.
exactly what policy you're talking
Okay,
about.
it's page 12-1.
Page 12-1. Under which, oh, that, okay,
12
1.
just
is the last section.
So that's.
Oh, you don't have, okay, I have letter. Oh, yeah, here. K is right here.
No, we are in K, but which letter? It's between 5 and 6. 5 and 6, okay, got it. Okay. We got it, 5 and 6. And on page 2. Okay, go to tab 5.
What did I do to you? They do 1, 2, 3, and then they do they go
Well,
LM. No,
They
it's not
did 1, 2,
properly.
yeah, but it's, okay, so tab 5,
No, tab 12.
we don't have tab 12. We don't have 12?
Yes, we do.
We don't have tab 12.
It's,
Here,
it's policy
This
12.
is your K.
Policy
This
12.
is K, and then you go to 12.
Are we going to have to public hearing on every one of these elements?
Yes.
4 a.m.
There's no 12.
Yeah, you have made it 12.
No, there's no
They're
12.
they're incomplete.
Yeah. Not all
It's
of
K
them.
and then it's A.
Yeah, they're complete.
Oh my God. We know it's gonna fail.
We understand
Yeah, I
that.
know that's why I said
But
no.
we need to vote. So
So just vote,
We
just
understand.
vote.
we still gonna maybe at the end of the day we compromise on the. I know. Listen. Ou gen va kompran.
So here it is. Here it is. What you just get new copy? Just get three Just get three set. You don't have any there?
Should we take another
Because we
5-minute
gotta get
recess?
going.
Oh, we're ready? Okay.
So we don't have time.
They're getting the copy for you.
That's fine. Let's just continue.
Let's go to 11.
You can share mine. Look. Here.
As a point of order, if each element is going to be voted on individually, then yes, a public hearing would be open for each one of those elements. Public discussion.
You're the beginning of that.
But there's still an overall final vote.
There's still an overall final,
Adopting the old plan.
adopting the whole plan, which would pass or fail based on supermajority.
Why don't we do a public hearing on the entire thing right now?
Yeah, exactly.
Because
I thought we did.
everybody's gonna want their bite at the apple.
We just
right?
did. We just did public hearing.
No, that wasn't a public hearing.
That was just public hearing on the supermajority. Now we gotta talk about the plan. Who wants height? Who wants?
No, we just did public hearing on tab K. You read tab K. No public hearing. Yeah, that was public hearing on tab K. No. It's already done. What is it? We already had public hearing on tab K. Now it's just us. Yeah. That's what we just had.
I see it differently. Yeah, they want to have their say at that stuff. You're not.
but
Yeah.
they're
Everybody
changed.
wants to talk about height and density now.
You help me here, man. Each item in the plan.
So what just happened there now? Yeah.
Without voting on it?
Can we call a 5-minute recess? Because we're still in session. Let's call a 5-minute.
We're in session, so.
We're just taking a 5-minute break because we're waiting on some copies of the actual document.
Thank you.